Okay, it's 10 past.
All look happy. All look happy.
No, you don't have to look anything because you're not in it.
No, I know I'm not in it. But I'm just telling the others to look happy.
For all those people who would like to join U3A Stawell, this is the way we run it. Very ad-lib, very laid back.
In other words, they're going to talk.
Yes, we're not. We're lucky enough today to have Dee, Maggie, Dawn, Joyce Matheson and Ivy all here at the same time, which doesn't always happen. And they collectively go way back to 19 whenever, when they started. When the 34 years. This is our 34th year. So for 34 years we've got Joyce Dowsett, Joyce Matheson. Ivy comes up a couple of years later. They'd only been going a couple of years. Not the foundation. So if you would just give us a little bit of Joyce, because you were the foundation, just tell us, what did you do when you first walked into U3A?
Well, before we started it, there was a public meeting called at the town hall, and there was a councillor called it. I think it was Councillor Isabel Humphreys at the start that called the meeting, and there was a U3A group formed.
So what year do you reckon this would have been? So 34 years ago.
Well, that's when you'd have to
that's
go back
20. Okay, so that's 2000. Will take us back to 20. So 14 from that'll be 1986.
Well, I suppose.
1986 would be, So 1986 would be your foundation year.
Everybody
else.
So you're originally from Stawell?
Oh, I'm originally from, the Stawell area.
Yeah, Stawell area.
I've been in my house 7 years.
So Stawell is in the Wimmera, South Wimmera. Stawell would be in the South Wimmera.
Oh, we always just said Stawell was in the Wimmera.
Yeah. So, but the Wimmera is a big place.
Yes.
Yeah, so
when you think we had people that came in from Manu.
So Manu's what?
Well, ours.
3/4 of an hour away.
And then Margaret was shut.
Yeah.
She led the computer.
Yeah, well, then Joyce, so you and your husband started, didn't you?
Well, a lot of people there that.
Yes, but I don't remember very much of those days here because...
Well, you were a bit like me, though. The faces which didn't quite...
Well, I didn't know all these people, you see.
So what did you do when you first came into U3A?
One thing I can remember, there was a lady whose name escapes me, which is something that happens.
So, why call an organisation aimed at the seniors in the community a university? If we have not already done that gig, we have fulfilled our working lives and are looking forward to the good life. Grandchildren, we are thinking we would have, could The first university in Adelaide was established in Toulouse, France in 1972 to bring older people into contact with existing academic programs, setting up courses particularly aimed at older and semi-retired people.
In
In
different ways,
England, the U3A movement developed into a self-help organisation, a model adopted by the Australian University.
Yes, so she teach music. So did you have a lot of school teachers amongst your group, or was it
retired school teachers?
Retired school teachers. That's right. With the U3A back then, you had a lot of social life too. Ivy, you went on some of the trips
Yeah,
and
they did.
We had quite a lot of trips. We used to be able to afford a bus in those days, and
We had some nice.
we had some good bus trips.
where you went to Melbourne.
We went to Melbourne, we went to the galleries, we went to museums, and
We went to
one year we went to the Immigration Museum, which
Leaving behind 1989 and fast forward to 2021. U3A Stawell is now a well-established part of the Stawell, Grampians and the Wimmera region. U3A Stawell has seen and heard excellent guest speakers, has enjoyed members of memorable character, and run a myriad of courses, programs and classes. During 2020 and the worldwide pandemic, now known as COVID-19, we applied for and received a grant to make a biographical film. As the first media release on the 23rd of June 1989 clearly shows, U3A Stawell began in 1989, 32 years ago, not 34 years ago. Still a good innings, and we're not out. Local media organisations have published many stories about us, and our latest print media release is a story that is giving us a lot of pride. It is easy to keep moving forward and forgetting to look back. COVID-19 and the 2020 pandemic has caused a lot of the world to stop and take measure. When we at U3A Stawell did just that, we realised how long members stayed with U3A Stawell. We are pleased with the media response to our Remembering action. Seniors often retire to country towns for the beauty and the quiet. With the magnificent Gary Wood, the Grampians National Park on the doorstep, almost perfection of the food and wines grown in the district, we can understand the seniors' happy tree change to Stawell and to the surrounding districts.
So there's a little pool at the top. This is what the water supply looked like. So it went through the mountain to Stawell, and you can still see parts of it. So it was very elaborate and a great engineering feat when they built it. So we've now got a tribute to them.
I've actually seen quite a bit of that. I was on the Ararat Shire Council and we got shown around it
Right, yes.
a few years ago, and it's really good. The flume, I think they call
The
it.
flume.
Flume line,
It was
We were told when there was a fire, they got volunteers to sit in the flume and pour water down the legs. And whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but that's what we were told. Yeah,
I've never heard that.
and they buckets of water and poured it down the legs so the fire didn't destroy it.
Yeah.
That's applied stall, I think, too.
It's a nice store, yes. Yeah.
My great-grandfather used to work on it.
Right.
Seniors also enjoy travel both at home and overseas, and U3A Stawell have offered an unbroken program of travellers' tales. Among our U3A Stawell membership, there are armchair travellers who have travelled the world through the eyes of the intrepid globetrotters, visiting Africa, Europe, England, Scotland, and of course the wonders of the Americas. COVID-19 has grounded us, but a trip down memory lane, Travellers' Tales in their first caravan, presented by Irene Sturt, helped stem our wanderlust in these troubled times.
And just in the marvellous, you know, just come across things like this, and yes, you enjoy them. So, all right, next one, thanks. As we went along the road, and the next one, as we went along the road to the Blue Wing Kookaburra. Now we don't see them in Victoria; they're not endemic. So yeah, we just came.
Go back to the one before.
Next one. Oh, well, that speaks for itself, yes. This was at Geelong. We just went for a walk and down the front and there was penguins. Well, apparently we thought it was just
whether the road was open or closed. So that night it had started to rain. So when we got to the sign, it said open, okay, go through. Well, I'll tell you what, we skidded from one side of the road to the other. We nearly ended up in a ditch. We wouldn't have got killed, but the caravan and the car would have been stuck. Because the road was open, you're not so bad. If you drive down those roads when it says don't enter and you get stuck, they charge $50 a wheel to get you out.
University of the Third Age is based on self-help learning, with a long list of courses available in many disciplines. During our 32 years, U3A Stawell has offered creative writing, history, play reading and performance, languages, book club, topical discussion, music craft and singing, environmental studies and many of the fine arts. A full program keeps our brains busy.
I'll go for... No, I mean not right now. Look, Mr.
What's your first name, Mr. Hammer?
No, you say Hannah.
No.
You don't say the bits that are underlined, just hammer.
Okay. Hammer.
And then the next bit,
What's your-
wait for this.
What's your first name, Mr. Hammer?
Jack.
There you go. There,
Jack Hammer?
I used to work in construction.
Very good.
I see.
Nathan,
What
be
did you do?
I operated a jackhammer.
Of course, but you know, and you no longer do that.
No, I had to quit.
Why is that?
Well, at work I just couldn't stop shaking. Demonstrate shaking.
Running a jackhammer.
Yeah, guess I was allergic or something.
Jack, this is Nurse Sally Manella. Nurse Manella, would you take Jack's temperature, please?
To the doctor. I'd rather she didn't. I'm a little bit chilly as it is.
No, Jack, I'm not taking anything. I'm just asking to check to see what your temperature is.
Oh, okay.
Now open your mouth.
And then you say,
Finished? Jack,
no thanks.
no thanks, I'm not hungry.
I'm not feeding you, Jack. I'm just taking your temperature.
So doctor, there she goes with the taking again. Always taking. But there's nothing wrong with me.
What are you doing here then?
I just came to be with my wife. She's the one with the appointment.
I don't get it. If your wife had the appointment, why did you come into the examination room?
Examination room? I was looking for the bathroom.
That's it.
That's it, is it? So the announcer said. When our members are not learning with laughter and make-believe antics, we often tackle the deep questions of society. During one term, we ran a program during which we debated the merits or not of euthanasia. Needless to say, a lively discussion. U3A Stawell have been fortunate to have included among their membership some highly skilled people who have been willing to share their knowledge. This has allowed classes to become cross-generational. Tai Chi is a good example, with an uninterrupted weekly class since 1989 and with only 3 incumbents over 3 decades. Another example of this longevity is our weekly German language class. Creative writing, drama, German language and English language
received a
programs
phone
have
call from
produced
neighbour
some memorable
PK that the
cameos.
shearing gang would
German
be at the shed
language
tomorrow
choir
morning.
performing
Could
O
you give a hand?
Tannenbaum,
Yes,
Christmas
okay.
Tree,
7:30 start.
English
yes.
language studies, Goffles,
So next morning, I'll give
aka
that to me.
Jeffrey
Arrived at
Chaucer.
the shed on time and was told to pick up and skirt the fleeces, and the first sheep were pulled out of the pens. All went well for a while, but then the big crossbred wethers began to play up, kicking and thrashing about. What are you doing, Og? Give Mick a hand over there on number 3 stand. He's having a lot of trouble holding them down. So he went over. You're allowed to say he answered.
Given the task to
Yeah.
write
So he
in
went
third
over and
person,
grabbed the back
all
legs
knowing
for me
omniscient,
to gain
where you
control
were
of it.
before the
But that made it
COVID-19,
worse.
Gordon
In the
Ogden
basket of a
produced
thing,
a little
tried to get up, and Mick lost control and half fell over. Mick landed up and looked up and said, "What the bloody hell are you doing, Ogden? You should be able to be a bigger help than that." The air was blue at this stage. Gordon looked up, looked in the pen and could see all the weathers were big, very big, and that they were all going to be a big problem. Until smoke over. Another 1 hour and 50 minutes until smoke over. Then he looked at Mick, who was a good shooter but of small stature. Would have a lot of trouble. And so, it would be a long, long day. But that was the good news. For a couple of months later, was that a couple of months later, news that a terrible virus had started in the filthy meat markets of China and quickly spread all over the world. Geo thought, give me the shearing shed any day.
Val Toomey, U3A art tutor and secretary, her book, Silver Jubilee 25 years, 1989 to 2014, was published and distributed amongst members. This book is a treasure. Photograph albums are an accurate method of archiving history. It is thanks to June McClure and Val Findlay we have such a full record of U3A Stawell in their early years. Cheryl Stackpool brought her stage and theatre skills to U3A and recorded the 2000s in a scrapbook. Current members are saving new memories on modern digital image files. Val Toomey's book Silver Jubilee and all incumbent secretaries' minutes. When searching for archival material, we must not neglect the newspaper article. U3A Stawell has always had their full support. All this combined will tell the future our past. U3A Stawell along with the rest of the world, has endured a pandemic like no other. We have had restrictions and lockdowns, unable to see our families for many weeks. When not in lockdown, we have made the best of our Friday programs.
Was tapestry. Don't get all the time to do it now. But, I've still got the thread in there. Anyway, doesn't matter. This is it. Oh, beautiful. As you can see, I haven't done the, I don't particularly want to put it on the floor.
No, you wouldn't.
Over the back of the couch. So anyway, I sort of lost.
I think put it on a rod and hang it.
Yes, I think so.
And as you
Are
can
you
see,
recording on that? Oh, sorry.
my tape
I
was
said 30 seconds, please.
right. My tape's coming off, so it needs redone.
Lovely.
But anyway, that,
I think everybody knows what my hobby is. I didn't bring the binoculars, but I'm always out looking at the birds.
Are you bird watching, Ivy?
Yes,
That's your
I'm
hobby.
bird watching, and I also do. These aren't all birds, but drawings of
Are you getting their
birds,
Yeah.
things. And when I was looking around, I found copious old notebooks with more and more bird pictures on them.
Hold them steady for a minute, Mason. Are you getting them?
Just let me zoom in.
And
Oh, look at your kookaburra. Wow.
this sort of thing, yeah.
Did you do those all through U3A or when you were travelling around?
A lot of them were travelling. These would have been all travelling ones. The same little box I use now, I used to take around Australia with me, and a sketchbook. And this is the bird list from my favourite spot. I go out to Commercial Road off the Hallsgap Road every morning that I could get there. I've been out this morning. And over 30 years, I've compiled a bird list of the birds I've seen, some of them only once, but like the last number count was 131.
Wow.
As all Australian birds.
Really?
And
They all have Commercial Road.
they have been over the years, but not necessarily now. Some of them only once. And one bird that I saw, and actually Irene came out with me last, might have been Thursday last week, and we saw the purple-crowned lorikeet, and I haven't seen it out there for more than 20 years. Native birds, but it's anything from 15 to 25, you know, depends on the day. And then I put it in a notebook and write each day's total and anything interesting, and the total of different birds for the month, and then I compare from last year and 10 years back, whatever. And so I've kept records of that particular spot for, over the last 30 years.
Just a little bit. Just what she's talking
Has anyone got a name,
Yeah.
Julie?
Which one?
The last one,
You can name that. Sort of like a punk woman, isn't it?
what about we call her Gabrielle?
Don't poke her in the eye.
She looks about as much like me as anyone.
Oh, and it's got a...
Can you run those past me
I can't
again?
get it up with my tongue.
Can you run those past the camera again?
Yeah, I've lost the earring out of one of them. Never mind.
What
Yeah,
about
what do I
Burnett?
do?
Just hold them up
Hold
again,
them up.
one at a time.
Just show
Yeah, you've got that one, have you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The earrings in the black hair.
That's the clown,
Yeah.
all made from op shop here. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
And show us the last one.
This is the bank. I call her the bank.
Oh yeah. Could put a paint tea. Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
One of my hobbies is writing, and I did intend on bringing a piece that I'd written for the Migrant Women's Museum in Adelaide. Unfortunately, I didn't, and fortunately, I couldn't find it because it always makes me cry when I read it out loud. When I was a literacy tutor in Adelaide, I was writing children's books, and they were written in order to teach the children, to make them want to read, I wrote them stories about them. And a lot of the children that I worked with were behaviour problem children or children from families with abuse. Yeah, they were wonderful kids, they really were. Then I wrote, the first one I wrote was for a little boy called Chris Crispin, who hated coming to school. He nearly had to be dragged to school every day. He didn't want to learn to read and write. He didn't want to do anything. And so I made a deal with him that I would read to him doing whatever he wanted to do on one day, and the next day he would have to do whatever I wanted to do, and he had to read to me. And he didn't like that after the first couple of days, because he thought, okay, all she wants to do is sit still and make me read. And so then I switched it up a bit, because he'd want to climb on the roof, and I'm like, I'm not climbing on the roof of the school, you know, to read a book to you. So I would sit there and I would move around, and in the end he'd be like, can you sit still so I can read, please? So he really, you know, but I wrote him a book called I Hate School, and that was the first book that I ever wrote.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, you should try and get to the Antarctic. Jane, a friend of mine went, and she said
Pick
the
up the other
orchids
one.
that come out of the glaciers are incredible.
Really?
I would.
Very good.
I would go.
Stump work. And we've got my favourite, which is gold work. That's that one. And my very favourite.
So when you say gold work, how do you do
The
that?
gold, it's all different gold threads.
It's gold thread, and you buy the little box.
Yeah, you buy the box,
And
and
then
you do
you-
it on there.
And the box is already velvet like that.
It started, and I thought, I wanted to find out a little more about my dad's side of the family that I wasn't read with, you see. And gradually got the here and a bit there and got things together. And I was given, one cousin gave me some nice old photographs. So, and scrapbooking was all the go at the time. So I've just, scrapbooking became a hobby. So I've got photos here to show my scrapbooking of my great-grandparents.
Turn your photos over.
Great-grandparents, I'll turn it around, you can have a look.
Move the, can you
no.
move the basket?
Yeah, great,
There we go. So that's your great-grandfather.
great-grandparents, so that's my
What was
hobby.
his name, Joyce? What was your great-grandfather's name? What was his name?
Campbell and Mason was the, yes, Mason.
Well, I've got three different hobbies. One is the garden, one is my cooking, and I make cards. Now, how I started to make my cards, my husband's dementia was starting to progress, so I realised I couldn't go out as much, so you look for positive avenues and make your life as good as possible. And I thought, now, Don loved the garden, so I set all the garden up, and we had a nice sunroom so he could look at all the different flowers, and that's how I came to really get involved in the garden. And I decided to have an indoor hobby, and I started to make cards. What I've done, I just picked these up in a hurry, and I've got a whole bunch of cards. So I'm going to give up making my cards because I want to get my tapestries done, and I'll get too old and my hands will get too stiff.
You know, we thought it was grass anguish, and then one of the trees looked a bit ordinary, and then they all looked a bit ordinary, and we thought we better get them out of the pots. So we planted them in the yard. Well, one died, but we've still got two going. Some kumquat liqueur. Just yesterday I made
U3A Stawell would like to thank U3A Network of Victoria for the grant that made this little film possible.